Thank you so much for that question. I think the role of the school board is to set policy, obviously set the budget, and I think it's best to stay out of the day-to-day operations of folks you've hired to do the work. So I think in synopsis, generally I think policy, budget making, hiring, approving hiring and things of that nature. But again, is trying as best we can to stay out of the business of the day-to-day operations of the actual entity. I think also still there's a leadership role within the school board. I think also being in touch with the community to help get the message out in regards to what the school boarders are trying to accomplish. So ultimately setting policy, reviewing, setting budgets, and also approving hiring and I guess some dismissals. Yeah. I have experience working in higher ed. I've not only been over budgets, but I've also written grants and obviously had to be over those federal dollars. In addition to that, I've worked in the state legislature. As we know, that's a $26 billion budget, and we've had some shortfalls in the budget recently, as we all know. And so primarily when we were looking at tax exemptions and sales tax and so forth, I was tasked to go through all of those exemptions, credits, things of that nature. And so again, I'm very comfortable not only with proposing budgets, but overseeing them as well. I think that we're doing a great job with dual enrollment. The Jumpstart piece is beginning to take off. I know I was on the ground floor of developing Jumpstart and also pushing more dual enrollment throughout the district and working with Southern. So I think they're really doing a great job with that piece. Also improving our test scores, our outcomes, because that's ultimately where the rubber meets the road. I think we can do better with our community schools, ensuring that they not only have the resources, but they have the same resources as our top tier magnets. How do we do that? I know that's the big question in regards to budgets and so forth, but those are two of the things that I think, one is we've done great with Jumpstart, being on the ground floor of it, implementing it and also moving forward with it, because again, I know Southern had nearly 1,000 students in dual enrollment. Primarily, many of those students were through the career and tech ed piece. From what I'm hearing, again, many of the scores within the district have gone up. And again, that's how you keep your money flowing and having good results. But I think our neighborhood schools need to, we need to take a real good look at those schools. For an example, Booker T. Washington is the only high school in the district, in District 3. Well, we need to look at the feeder schools. I know we all want to go to high school and look at who's graduating and going to college, but feeder schools, I think, is what's so important and what we have to really shore up. Well, man, that's a great question. I know a little bit about the retirement system. Again, I've worked in the state all my life. One thing I think we can work with the retirement system a little better in order to maybe get some fruit from our labor. For an example, allowing some of our state workers to come back to work. That will generate maybe money from the more money for the retirement system that can be leveraged for the medical piece. And what I mean by that is teachers, once they retire, if they were in a certain system, teachers, Louisiana teacher retirement system, then they cannot go back to work. Well, we proposed a law that would change that, whereby they could come back. They wouldn't increase their benefit. They would only be contributing back into the system. So it really helped the system. It helped them to generate more money. So maybe we can have that conversation with the teacher retirement system and get them to work with our legislatures or lobby them in order to really get some traction surrounding that. And again, leveraging those dollars that through the retirement system to offset maybe some of those medical costs, because, and I hadn't looked at how many teachers are out of, I won't say out of work, how many are retired that could be eligible to come back, but I know it's a pretty good amount because of the notes that we receive based upon the law. So that's one quick impromptu way that maybe we could work to partner to leverage dollars. As we know, public partnerships are basically the way to go, not only in our state but throughout the nation. And so I think working with the retirement system will help us in that regard, help them generate some money, and they can help us on the back end. One thing is better results. If we increase our outcomes, it's just going to attract more people here to the city. So I'm a little skeptical about just going in to say closing schools, because if we have a mindset to say we're going to close schools and the population grows, then we're just going to have to go and rebuild more. I guess because I've thought about this in detail since last week, and so we need to ensure that we're matching that with our master plan, because if our master plan says we're going to grow in 10 years, then we need to match that with where the folks are going to be, and in addition to where the schools need to be, obviously where the growth. So I think we need to work in conjunction with not only the city but the parish, and really develop a comprehensive master plan. I'm sure it's out there, but everybody has master plans and strategic plans and so forth. We need to evaluate it on a continuous basis to see what's working. And some of that I'm sure is being done, but with these conversations I'm not sure it's been really nailed down. So I guess to answer your question, I would want to do an analysis to see where we are. I would need to get in the system to look at budgets and so forth, and work with the mayor and the parish to see how we could remedy this situation we have within our city. Because it's not just a school board problem. It's a tax-based problem with the city and the parish and so forth. So we really have to work to attract more people here to the city. And I think if our accountability scores go up, along with them, and when I say them, the city and parish doing better things, maybe we'll all feel better about where we are. Now, I like that, because obviously District 3 is vitally important, but as we know, we've heard the statement, a high tide raises all boats. And I think that's where I could really be a best help is district-wide. Again, I mentioned the dual enrollment piece. I've been in education all my life and working in the state. I think just some of the natural things within me in my profession will help the district. So for an example, again, I mentioned the Jump Start, the early college programs that we have. So what it is whereby we're trying to we have pushed dual enrollment down to the 9th grade. Now what we need to do is put more degree programs behind that, so students can graduate with associate degrees in when they graduate from high school. What that does, it helps accountability scores go up. It helps the schools and the district get more money, either through academic or career and tech ed, depending on what the student's taking. That MFP can be blown up by simply them taking those courses in high school. Also, that helps the students save money once they get out, parents, and hopefully when I have children, they'll take advantage of dual enrollment. So I think just my overall willingness to work across districts, because I know in politics that's how you get things done. And so that's what I really plan to do, because it is about the district, but it's also about Caddo, and we have to ensure that we're working together to solve problems. So I have, again, experience working with the state legislator, who I'm an Army guy as well. He's an Army former colonel in the military, so we know about consensus building. Many of the things he's been able to accomplish is he was allowed other folks to put their name on it and said, hey, as long as it get accomplished, I'm cool, I'm okay with it. So I think overall the willingness to work in the Wherewithal. I've worked in the public school system myself, in junior high and high schools. I've also worked in higher ed. So I think my comprehensive knowledge and just willingness to work will help just not only me, but the district. And, you know, again, just looking at issues, sitting down with all board members to say, what do you need? And this is what I need, and coming up with a compromise. Well, I'll give you a quick example, the quickest one I can think of off the top of my head. I had an employee who basically just wanted to get off work early for certain reasons. I liked them, I liked their work ethic, but I felt it just wasn't good for the whole, because if I do it for you, I'm gonna have to do it for the entire group. She had some pretty legitimate reasons. And I just had to stick with what I thought was best, not only for the individual, but for the whole. Other things, I'm trying to give another example. Typically, I'll tell you how I approach things from my own personal standpoint. What I try to do is be honest with folks. I try to be straight up to you know, outline my positions. And then that helps me not to have to deal with a lot of the unethical things. So when folks know your position and know kind of who you are and what you stand for, then I feel you don't have a lot of the ins and outs of I guess, life and politics of whatnot. So I hadn't had a lot of things that test me in that regard, because I try to be, people know that I'm 10 toes down per se, and I'm a man of my word. And so again, I think when folks know that you're a little shady per se, then they come at you with these things. Ultimately, I think it's a matter of just being a man of integrity who you know, just walks in, and that's just about leadership. And being in leadership positions, you have to look folks in the eye and tell them the truth. And sometimes you have to say, let's not talk about it now, so I don't have to get that integrity tested, because human resource and human capital is one of the most important things we have on our jobs and in our lives and in our everyday walks in our community. So I can't really think of anything off the top of my head, but again, I try to be a moral man, being a Christian, and also a military man, and been in the Masons for 20 years. So again, I think if you walk pretty upright, you don't have to deal with a lot of that mumbo jumbo. So. I mentioned, you probably can tell, I mentioned one, which is I want to see that more students are receiving their associate degrees in high school. I think Jump Start has really given us the legs that we need. I think with my expertise in not only secondary education, but also higher ed, it'll just help with it's just natural for me. So a lot of this work in regards to high school to college transition is just not hard. I've been doing it for the last 15 years, so it's just, again, natural. So that's one thing I definitely want to see. And in the district, I will say this is more district focus. I want to see that the accountability scores are increased. That's just the bottom line. I also do want to see more neighborhood community schools shored up. I want to see more more students choosing to go to school right within their neighborhood. So that's just important to me, because I did, and I was supported within my neighborhood. When I say neighborhood, just not locally, but within that community. I use Cherokee Park for an example. Many of the students who attend Cherokee Park come from right in that neighborhood. I was at Cherokee Park the first day of school, and it was amazing how many parents and students that the teachers, the principals knew. And I think that's contributed to them being right there in that neighborhood, and we talked about the type of pride that the students have from that neighborhood. So those are a couple of issues that I just want to see. More students getting associate degrees in high school. College is so expensive. It's just, and I think the partnership with the public school system and colleges within our community is so important, because it's the same difference. We need to keep that capital right here in Shreveport, because again, we don't want to lose them. Where you go to school, typically you kind of stay almost. So again, I want to see the accountability scores come up in our feeder schools to begin to feed, in this case, Booker T. Washington with more students. I spoke at J.S. Clark Middle School, and the young lady, she was 6th grade and very small, a baby, and she had all the awards. I mean, she was walking in like this. And I said, well, baby, where is you going to school? And her first response was, Caddo Magnet. And my mind honestly went, why? And so that, being quite honest, is some of the reason I think our schools have not been as successful, because the capital is leaving. So I use that as the same example in Louisiana. So my brain trust is leaving for whatever reason. It could be policy, it could be whatever. So those are 3 of the issues I would like to see showing up, not only in the district, but in the parish. No, you all done a great job. I think you all have studied this stuff well, so you know exactly what questions to answer, to ask. I would say that, again, I'm a lifelong educator. I think that's very important. Also, consensus building, someone who's willing to sit down at the table and just find out solutions, work towards solutions. You know, we all know the problems. We're leaders on our job, so we say, don't bring me a problem, try to come in with some solutions. So that's one reason why I say I'm more than willing to sit down and carve out things that's just going to help Shreveport generally, because I obviously in politics, and not only the people, but some of our policies have to change. We can't keep educating and also leading the way we have for the last, I guess, 20, 50, 100 years. So within the classroom, within our communities, we have to think differently. And so I think I'm the person not only that has the experience, but the wherewithal and education to help us achieve those. So thank you all so very much.